Taf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph will begin at the bottom of Nun Beis Amud Beis, the beginning of the new parak. Zok the Mishnah, Ketzad Me'avim Es Ha'arim. How do you extend out the cities? As we'll see in the Mishnah, we have a city and we take the tchum from the city, the Alpaim Amma, from the edge of the city. Now, before we measure the Alpaim Amma, we square off the city, meaning if there's any protrusions in on the edge of the city, there are things that extend out beyond the city. We don't measure Alpaim Amma from one point and then Alpaim Amma from a different point, a point that's either further back or further ahead. We square it off, we level it off, and from there we measure the Alpaim Amma. So therefore we're ma'abrin the arim, we extend it. As we'll see in a moment, we extend the boundary and then measure Alpaim Amma, and we'll illustrate that in a moment. So Ketzad ma'abrin es ha'arim, how do we extend this boundary to the city? If there's a house that protrudes out or a house that is further in. So, for instance, if we have the city, let's say you have the edge of the city and you have houses that are from the edge of the city that protrude out and come in, are indented. So they go out and in, out and in. And so we leveled it off. So therefore we're extending, in effect, we extend this, even though the city here ends over here. The row of houses here extend further out, and here they don't, they end over here. But we measure a straight line, we draw a straight line over here. So therefore, in effect, we're extending this out. Even though there's no in the houses over here, we extend it out. So that's one example. Or pogum nichnas pogum yoitze, or if there's a wall around the city and there's a tower that protrudes out or that's recessed. So you have the wall of the city, and if you have the wall of the city and there's consider this to be a wall, and there's a tower that protrudes out. So now we extend the wall to come up to this level. So we're extending it out. Or if there is a tower that's recessed over here, it's further in. Nevertheless, if the wall comes out, then we extend it and bring it forward. If there were ruins that are 10 tefachim high, so here the case is that you have the city, and within 70 and 2/3 ammas of the city, within the outskirts of the city, if you have ruins. So you extend out the city and you bring it out to, we say the city extends, and those outskirts, those ruins that are in the outskirts, extend the city out. You draw the line to the edge of those ruins. Or if you have a gesharim, bridges. So if you have bridges, and if you have in the bridges, you have people who are living in the huts over there, as the Mishnah will say, you have people like the people who are collecting the tolls. So if you have over there the gesharim, or nefashos, or you have the nefashos, you have by a kever, you have the tombs over there by the kever. Sheeshman Beis Dira, where there are dwelling places, where people are living in there. So if you have over there, that also will extend out this city, because you consider that these gesharim, which have these dwelling places, to be part of the city and extending out the city. Taisus points out that by the nefashos, you don't need a specific dwelling place, because the nefashos themselves are considered stama ladira for the shomer of the kever. It's considered to be for the shomer of the kever. But when it says the base dira, it's referring to the gesharim, which normally would not be considered to be a base dira. So in all of these cases, moitzinas hamida kenegdan, you draw the line opposite the area that it protrudes furthest out, and you make it like a square table or tablet, So therefore, you draw the line out. If you have these protrusions, you draw the line from here. So you make it, therefore, square it off. You don't draw 2,000 amas from here and 2,000 amas from back here. You draw 2,000 amas, you draw the line, and you draw 2,000 amas from the line, even though technically there's nobody living here and this is empty space. You draw the line across, and therefore you have 2,000 amas from this line. So you make it like a tavla merubas kadesh niskar bezavia. So for instance, once you squared off the city, so you've had all your protrusions, you've squared it off, so now you have the straight lines. It doesn't have to be necessarily square. It just means that you straighten out the lines and you make it either a square or a rectangle, and now you have the city. So now you draw the 2,000 amas from the area that's been squared off or been straightened out, more precisely. So you have 2,000 amas, so there's 2,000 amas that you draw from here, from this line. You measure out 2,000 amas. 2,000 amas from each direction. 2,000 amas. Because when you do that now, you'll have the diagonal, on the diagonal will be 2,800. It's roughly, the diagonal roughly longer by 1.4. So therefore you'll be nisker v'zaviyos, you make it into a straight line all around, and therefore you'll have 2,000 amas in each direction, which means from to the corners to the diagonal, you'll have 2,800 amas on the diagonal. So you'll be nisker v'zaviyos. So that's how we draw the 2,000 amas on for the tchum. We don't say that you measure 2,000 amas from each end or each point of the city, and if one area extends further out, you take 2,000 amas from the area that extends further out, and then if something protrudes further in, you take 2,000 amas from the indentation. You don't draw 2,000 amas from here and 2,000 amas from here and then 2,000 amas from here. You straighten the line and then you draw 2,000 amas. So we have a machlekes coming up between Rav and Shmuel about the precise wording of the Mishnah when it says Ketzad ma'avrim es ha'arim, how can you extend the city? So we have a machlekes there in what the precise wording is, and then we'll have other machlekes Rav and Shmuel, not related, different machlekes Rav and Shmuel on different words and different precise meaning of words in different contexts. So Rav and Shmuel, Chatane Ma'abrim, one learned that the Mishnah says Ketzad Ma'abrim with an ayin, V'Chatane Ma'abrim, one learned it with an aleph. Ma'adatane Ma'abrim, the one that learned it with an aleph. What's the pshat with that? Aver. He understands it to mean like an aver, and an aver which extends out from the body. It's a limb that extends out from the body. So that's why he learned it with an aleph. Mandatane Ma'abrim, the one that learned it with an ayin. Why did he say with an ayin? Why did he learn with an ayin? What does that have to do with extending the city? So he learned it Mandatane Ma'abrim kisha ubra, like a woman who is pregnant, so her body extends out. It extends out. So here also we're extending out the city. So not related, we also have another machlekes in the precise wording in a different context. Maras HaMachpelah. So we have the Maras HaMachpelah, Rav Shmuel, we have machlekes Charam Shnei Batim Zeh Lifnim Zeh. One says it was a cave with two rooms, one in front of the other. And the other one says it's a house with an aliyah, with an upper level on top of it. Not one in front of the other, one on top of the other. So Bishlam Laman Damar Al Gav, the one who says one on top of the other, Hainu Machpelah. That's why it's called Maras Machpelah. It was double, because one on top of the other. El Laman Damar Shnei Batim Zelif name is but the one who says it's one in front of the other, my Machpelah. What's the meaning of Machpelah? More answer Shikafula Bazugais. It's cool, it's doubled with couples. There were different couples that were buried there. So therefore it's machpelah because it has the different, it's kafel with the people, the zugais that were buried there. Like we learned, the Mamre Kiryas Ha'arba, it says Kiryas Ha'arba. Amr of Yitzchak, Kiryas Ha'arba Zuga. Azugais is the Kiryas, the city of the four couples. Adam v'Chava, one couple is Adam v'Chava, one is Avram v'Sora, and Yitzchak v'Rivka, Yaakov v'Leah. So according to the Napshat, it's Maras Machpelah, it's Kfula b'Zugais. Another machlokes between Rav and Shmuel on the wording, the precise wording. It says, "Vahi b'mei Amraphel." It was in the time of Amraphel that they had the four kings went to war with the five kings. Rav and Shmuel Chadamar Nimrod Shmai. His name was not really Amraphel. His name was really Nimrod. That was his real name. But Lama Nikra Shmai Amraphel. Why was he called Amraphel? Sha'omar v'hipil la'Avram avin v'sarkiv shanaish. Because Omar v'hipil. Amraphel. Is he Amar, and Hipil. He declared, he gave the order, and they threw Avram Avinu into the burning fiery furnace. V'chana Amar Amraphel Shma. The other one said that no, really his name was Amraphel. Nimrod. Why was he called Nimrod? Shehimrid as Kol Alam Kulo Alav Malchusai. He led the whole world in a rebellion against the Rebbeinu Shalom. Another machlok is between Rav and Shmuel. It says Vayakam Melech Chadash Al Mitzrayim. So it says that a new king ruled over Egypt. Rav and Shmuel Chadamar Chadash Mamish. One said it was a new king. He was a king that was new, it did not rule before. The other one says, no, he was not that he was a new person, he was the same person, but he had new gzeros, new decrees, and therefore he was called new. He acted in a new way, in a different way. The one who says he was really in reality a different person, says new, he was new. Because it doesn't say what it normally says, that the Yamas, the old king, died and the new king was appointed. Here it doesn't say that. So therefore, he learns it to mean not that it was literally a new king, but rather that his Gzeiroisa was Nischacha. The one that says that he didn't die, it was just a new Gzeiros. It says that he did not know Yosef. Well, if he was the same person, he may have had new takonos, new Gzeiros, but why did he not know Yosef? So our answer is my asher lo yoda es Yosef. What does it mean he didn't know Yosef? It's as if he did not know of Yosef. He never heard of Yosef. He had harsh decrees and gzeras against Klal Yisrael, so as if he never heard of Yosef and what Yosef did on behalf of Mitzrayim. Siman Shmein Esrei v'Shneim Esrei Lamando beDovid v'Yavin. Amar Rav Yochanan Yudches Yomim Gidalti Etzel Rabbi Yoshe Beribi. He said he spent 18 days with Rabbi Yoshe, the Gadol of Der. And I only learned from him one thing regarding our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, how do we extend the cities? It was with an aleph. Is that so? You had based Talmidim. He had 12 Talmidim. Rav Yochanan said that I spent 18 days with his 12 Talmidim, and I learned what a great Chacham each one of them was, and the Chacham is Kol Echad, and how much Chacham they had. I learned how the Leiv of Kol Echad, that the Amkos of them, and how smart they were, and the depth of their understanding, and also how much knowledge that they had. So you see that he learned so much. So what does it mean that he only learned one thing, Mishnah saying? The more answer is Leiv Kol Echad V'Echad V'Chachmas Kol Echad V'Echad Gomer. He learned how clever each one was. He learned how much wisdom they had and knowledge they had. That he learned. But Gemara LeGomer. But he didn't learn anything from them. Meaning he just saw how smart they were, how special they were. But he didn't actually learn anything new himself. Or Ibai Sema Minau Didu Gomer. Ibai Sema he learned from the Talmidim, but Mine Didei Lo Gomer. But he didn't learn anything from Moshe Rabbi. Only learned from his Talmidim. And Ibai Sema yet another answer that the Gemara says, Ibai Sema Davar Echav Mishnah Seinu Komer. When he said he only learned one thing, it doesn't mean that this is all that he learned from him. That they only learned from him that Ma'abrim, that is with the Aleph. That's not what it means. What it means to say is that's all he learned from him regarding in our Mishnah. He learned other things from them. He learned many other things from them. But as far as our Mishnah is concerned, this is all that he learned from him. When we learned Torah from Rav Yeshua, we were sitting 4 in an Amma. We were all squashed together. Omar, Rabbi said, when we were learning from him, we were 6 squashed in an Amma. Omar Rav Yeshua in his generation, was like Rameir in Rameir's generation. What's the comparison? What do we mean to say? Just like Rameir in his time, people could not come to the depths and they understand the depths of his understanding, of his reasoning. So too Rav Yeshua also, his colleagues could not come to fathom the depths of his understanding. The lave of the early Chachamim, of the earlier generations, their understanding, their minds were huge. They had huge understanding, like the entrance of the Ulam of the Beis Hamikdash. But the later generations, it shrunk. Their understanding, their understanding was diminished, and was only like the Pesach of the Heichal. So it was diminished. It went from 40 amas of width to 20 amas of width. Meaning, so you see the Niskat Noadairas that they had that much less of a level of understanding. And he says, as far as we are concerned, as far as us, it's so small, it's Niskatnu so much, the Dairas, that it's only like the eye, the opening the eye of a needle. That's how tiny it is. That's how limited we are in our understanding. So who are the earlier and the later generations? Rishainim, Rabbi Akiva. The earlier generations, that's referring to Rabbi Akiva. Achrayim, Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. Achrayim refers to Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. Ikadam, Rabbi Shainim, Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua, and Achrayim, Rabbi Yeshua Beribi. Va'anu Kemalei Nekev Machas Sikis, and for us, where it's like an eye of a needle. So it's so small. Va'amar Abaya Va'anan, and Abaya says, we who are later than that, we're even later than that, it's Niskatnu further. It's like forcing a peg into a small hole, into a narrow hole in a wall. It's so hard for us to understand. It's like you have to press and shtup a peg into a small hole. That's how difficult it is. This is a bayatakim. It's like putting a finger on hard wax, and for us to have a svara, to make our own svaras. So that's how hard it is. And Amaravashi ki esbava bebir l'shikha. But as far as forgetting is concerned, it's like putting a finger into a pit. It's very easy, goes in a big pit, a finger into a big pit, goes in and out easily. So too, the knowledge comes in, the chal comes in, and it goes right out. We forget it right away. So Abaya said, it's like Yisichsa Beguda for us to Gemara. It's like putting a peg in a wall for Gemara. That's as far as Gemara is concerned, to understand what we're being taught. Rava says it's like Esva Bekira, and putting a finger into hard wax, which doesn't even go in, it just presses down the surface, it just makes an impression, but it doesn't even go in, as far as a svara, to make our own svaras. But as far as shikha is concerned, it goes in and out. Rav Ashi says, like putting a finger into a pit. It goes right in and goes right out. Amar Yehuda, Amar Rav, B'nei Yehuda Shekpila Shainim, the people who lived in Yehuda, in that region, that they were particular and the way they spoke, niskayim Torah biyadam, then they retained their Torah learning. But Bnei Gola Shalei Pirol Shainim, but Bnei Gola in the north and the Gola, that they were not particular the way they spoke, niskayim Torah biyadam. The Torah was, they didn't retain their Torah. What is learning? Learning has to do with being particular in how you speak. Why is that a criteria? Ella, rather, Bnei Yehuda, the Daikye, Elishna, Bnei Yehuda were very meduic, precise in their language. So when they said over the Torah, they said it exactly, the Ramadan, exactly the way it was taught to them. Then, and they made simonim to remember their learning, this kind of Torah biyadam. Then they retained it. They learned it correctly, precisely. They made simonim to remember it. There was this kind of Bnei Gola, the loy daik halishna, but they were not precise to give over the way they were taught exactly. V'loy misnechu simonon, and they did make simonim. Loy niskayim Torah biyadam. Bnei Yehuda gamra mechad rabba. Bnei Yehuda learned from one Rebbe. Niskayim Torah biyadam. So they retained it. Bnei Gola the loigamra mechad rabba. Bnei Gola that didn't learn from only one Rebbe. Loy niskayim Torah biyadam. It was not niskayim biyadam. They would not be able to retain it. So Rashi explains that when we're talking about learning the basic text, then you have to learn from one Rebbe, because otherwise there's confusion. If one Rebbe teaches it one way, and the other one has a different Messiah, and he teaches it in a different lashon, in a different language, there's a different girsa. So if there's different girsoises then there's confusion. There, it's important to learn from one Rebbe, but in terms of svara and understanding, then if it's only one Rebbe, then it limits the Talmud. So over here, we're talking about learning the basic girsa, the basic text that they learned from one Rebbe. It was clear, it was not confused, and therefore they retained it. Ravino Omari says a different shad. He says, Bnei Yehuda, the Goli Masechet, Bnei Yehuda, that Goli Masechet literally means that the learning was revealed. So the way Rashi explains it, he says that it was revealed. They taught it to other people, and they gave explanations for it. So they were Goli Masechet, Niskayim Torah biyadam. Bnei Gola, the Loy Gola Masechet, Bnei Gola that didn't do that, Loy Niskayim Torah biyadam. Then it was not Niskayim biyadam. Miri has a different shot. He says that Goli revealed, meaning before they gave the shir, they gave the marmakaimis, it was prepared, the magal, they revealed what they were going to give the shir on. So it was clarified more, therefore they were able to retain it. Dovid, Gola Masechet. Dovid was Gola Masechet. Sholoi Gola Masechet. Dovid, the Gola Masechet, Ksiv Beis, says by him, Yeraecha, Yerune V'yismochu. It says, those that have yira of you will see me and be Yismachu, they'll rejoice because the Torah is clear that the halacha is correct. The Shol like Gola Masechta, but Shol was not Gola Masechta. Ksive, it says B'chol Asher Yifna Yashia. Whatever he did, he was Rashia. He made mistakes. He didn't paskin correctly. He was Gola Masechta. V'amar Rav Yochanan minayin shemochel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how do we know that Rabbi Shalom was Michael Shol for the Avera for killing out Na'ir Kehanim Shenema Machar Atavincha Imi? Tomorrow, it says to you that Shmuel said to Shol, tomorrow you and your son, Yohaina's son, are with me. Meaning they told him that they were going to die. But he says, with me, they'll be with me in Gan Eden. So you see there's a mechila for the Averas because they're together with him in Gan Eden.